Hello again, Taylor County. I'm Alex Rowan with Unleashed Tiger. I'm here with Dave Sypolt, running for Senate, the incumbent for Senate on the 14th District. Dave, thanks for coming on the program.
Alex, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. Hey, let's start off. So this isn't your first campaign, obviously, but in this campaign, or even some of your time, what are you hearing most from constituents? What have you learned? Maybe is there something you've changed a position on after talking to constituents this time around?
Oh, I'm not sure how to answer that. That's a loaded question.
It sure is.
My outlook on different issues changes all the time. In fact, if you're not learning, you're not doing anything. So, I enjoy the opportunity to meet with people and to find out their position, because you can't know everything, and that's why we have experts in the fields that we talk to, and that's why we have constituents with issues, and they tell us what needs to be done.
Yeah, makes sense. We oftentimes in this program talk about how it's, let's turn the tables. It's hard to be in a public office, so let's help from a Republic standpoint, right? And we always say it's not a spectator sport. The Republic is not a spectator sport. So when you're out there and people are asking you to do something, there's something you'd like to let people know that, hey, a state senator really can't do X or Y. These are things that are maybe better played here, here, or here. Is there anything like that you hear kind of consistently?
Oh, absolutely. I get a lot of federal issues in my office, and many times someone will have a problem with Social Security or with veterans benefits, on the federal level. And of course, I take all those concerns and I pass them right on to our federal representatives, and I return the information to them when I receive it, or just put them directly in touch with who they need to. And many times people don't know who to talk to.
Sure.
And I'm happy to help them as much as I can. The biggest regret I have is there's just not enough time. And there are people that ask things of me that falls through the cracks, and I apologize. I hate that. Sometimes I just drop the ball, but I try to do my best, and if we had more help, then maybe we could answer more questions.
Yeah, makes sense. And again, it's kind of on that same vein, just flipping the tables on the people at home. What is it that if you win again, you're back in office, what's the single most important thing folks back home can do to help you be successful in your term?
We have several issues in our state, which going forward, I'm not going to claim to have the answers for, but I will tell you that I work toward an end. Probably the biggest thing menacing our state, and everyone's aware of this, is our opioid epidemic and the unhealthiness of our state. We need to get involvement of the communities and pull people back up by their bootstraps to make sure they don't fall through the cracks. I'm convinced that much of our problem as a society is because we're not neighborly anymore. We're not as neighborly as we used to be. It used to be a community action that when someone was falling behind, they would all reach down and pull them up and help them along. There's no wonder there's so many people in despair.
Yeah, that's it. To that point, there's a lot of challenges, and a lot of that is set at the feet of public servants. And so I ask you, you've been in this for a while. I mean, you never know always what you're getting into, because every term's different. I mean, boy, these last couple of years with what's going on in the Supreme Court and all this stuff. But really, why are you going after this again? Why public service? Is there something left you want to have finished? Why continue to go after this?
Well, Alex, quite frankly, this is the wrong time to change direction. I ran for office the first time over a decade ago. I saw that we had a need in our state. I worked toward those ends, and in the last 4 years we've had an opportunity to really turn our economy around for the first time in a long time. And to change that direction now, I think, would be a terrible mistake. So I want to keep the feet to the fire, keep moving forward, continue to make an environment that our state can welcome businesses with open arms, that we can provide employment. You can see that West Virginia has lost population for the past 5 or 6 decades. You know why? Because people go where the jobs are. If there's not a job here, they're not going to stay here. And we want to bring those, we want to welcome our West Virginians back. We want to keep our children and grandchildren home. The opportunities are available, and our economy is growing the fastest it's grown in a long, long time, and we want to keep that going. So that's what I'm here for. What I've done in the past is what I want to continue doing. We want to make sure West Virginia is not the outlier. We want to make sure that we're doing things similar to what other states do, and make sure that our economy continues to grow and our people prosper.
Yeah, it's good to savor the kind of news of economic growth and those things, because we have had so little for so long. Kind of going more to a fundamental question, and there's a lot in this thing, but I'll kind of throw it out there and we'll clean it up on the way. But Many have, as you know, we reach out to the folks. Say, hey, what do you think? What would you like us to ask of your office and other offices that are running this election? And one of the themes we were getting back is they still feel that there's a lack of proactive leadership at the state level. And so what I would ask you is, what is your leadership philosophy in regard to how do you stay ahead? How do you stay informed? How do you stay proactive? What's your decision-making process or your voting rationale? And really, how do you set priorities, and then how do you make sure you're meeting those priorities and measure them?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you never meet all your priorities. It seems like there's more need than there is opportunity. But nonetheless, we strive to do the best we can. I think that in the past few years, one of the biggest things that the leadership and the legislature has done is we've looked at other states and asked, why is our state different? Anytime you have a situation where our state is out of line with other states, we've tried to make it, bring it back in line. A perfect example of that is we've been dubbed as being the most overregulated state in the nation. It's probably pretty close to true. In the past 4 years, we've rescinded 1,200 and some rules that were either obsolete, out of date, not needed anymore, duplicative, and trying to make it a little easier for people to conduct business. We've tried to take agencies which were doing similar tasks and combine them together, try to reduce the number of people doing the jobs, and reduce the tax burden on the people so the money can go where it needs to go and move our state forward.
Yeah, so if we were to sit down here, if you're to win again, and we sit down after this next term, what is it would you like to say, hey, I've been able to accomplish X, or we as a state have been able to accomplish Y?
Absolutely the most important thing to our state right now, besides the fact that we have a health issue in our citizens, from an economic growth perspective, there's nothing more important than establishing an ethane storage hub in the Appalachian region. If we were able to get that accomplished, and there have been a couple different resolutions sent to Congress asking for this designation so that industry can begin to store this ethane, we would have an opportunity to actually process and consume and downstream process the natural gas products. Things that we have an abundance of. Right now, most of our gas products move out of state. They go somewhere else for processing.
Yeah, and
if we could have that processing done right here, the opportunity for economic growth for our citizens and the job opportunities would be astounding. You would see a revolution in this state.
Yeah, the way I understand it is not even most, but like the lion's share. It's not very little stays around, and so it all goes down to the Gulf Coast, right? And then it gets processed, and most of it then gets shipped back up to the Northeast, where it actually gets used for extrusion and.
So where better to have a processing facility than in the middle of the East Coast, where we're within a day's drive of half of the U.S. population, and the raw product is being produced here. We're talking about putting in crackers, having an ability to store the ethane product, and then using that ethylene oxide to produce everything from plastics to fertilizers to everything else, up and down the scale.
Yeah.
So you could see that people would be moving into our state for jobs instead of moving out of state to find opportunity.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you hate to overblow those things, but I've heard certain folks who are in the know in that industry talk about that it's a Houston-esque type economic boom is what we would see here with that storage hub and what would come around that. So yeah, boy, that would be.
And we're talking not a flash in the pan, but we're talking decades long. Perhaps
sustainable.
30, 40, 50 years long, maybe even longer. We don't know.
Yeah.
We do know that there's a lot of product in our state. And developing that product, we have the technology now. We just need to get the economic incentive and the framework to provide the manufacturing facilities a good foothold, and I think we would take off from there.
Yeah, it's certainly something we've been watching close because it does have the potential to be a real life changer in our region. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing your office, or facing the Senate and the state coming ahead?
Biggest challenge? That's interesting because the legislature works together, both the House and the Senate work together. I'm not sure that the Senate really has individual challenges. I'm not sure how to answer that.
Well,
Alex.
that's fair. Well, let me ask it this way, or let me change a bit. So your incumbent, is running against you. Obviously, you have an incumbent, or I'm sorry, you're the incumbent. Your challenger. A lot of times, these elections, challengers may say certain things. Where might your challenger be misinformed, or where might your challenger have good ideas?
Well, I would say that my challenger is misinformed on at least two fronts. The first front is that I've heard her say on many occasions that if we would tax the businesses which have all the money, then the state would be able to prosper and we'd be able to have all the money we need to provide for our people. And I would say that that's misguided. And the reason I believe that's misguided is that the more you tax businesses, especially above and beyond what adjoining states tax their businesses, you're going to lose those employment opportunities. I think we've seen that over the past several decades. We've seen businesses leave. We've seen our citizens leave to find job opportunities. We need to turn that around, and we've just begun to turn the corner to bring these businesses and bring that economic opportunity back to our people. So I would say, to the constituents out there, trust us and let us build businesses, let us grow businesses, let us grow opportunities for our people. And the second thing is she likes to point out that we're giving away our natural gas resources. But the fact of the matter is West Virginia's severance tax on natural gas is several times higher than Ohio or Pennsylvania. In fact, we can do the math right here on camera if you want to, but I can demonstrate that we charge 5 times more in Ohio and 4 times more than Pennsylvania. Not percentage, but times. So let's bring that home a little closer. If you're driving down the highway and you needed gas for your car, would you buy gas at $2.50 or $3.50? You're going to go where it's the cheapest. So that's an incentive for manufacturing and extraction in the states where they have to pay less severance. Now, in fact, some states don't have any severance at all. Another point that is brought up is that some states have higher severance than us. But I will tell you that their tax structure is much different than ours.
Yeah, and where's the impact fees fit in?
Okay, well, that's how Pennsylvania technically does not have a extraction fee, or they do not have a severance tax. Mm-hmm. They have an impact fee. But if you look at the volume of gas which is produced from the average Marcellus well, and you multiply it out by the average cost of the gas at the going rate, and how many years that well will last, West Virginia will receive just over, $1 billion. Okay. I'm sorry, just over. I hope I don't get my decimal wrong here. Anyway, we will receive just over $1 million in taxes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
$1 million in taxes, like $1,100,000.
Okay.
Pennsylvania, with their impact fee at the current price structure we have right now, they would get about $270,000. So
wow.
that's
okay.
just a little bit over 1/4 of what we charge. And Ohio, their severance tax is based only on volume, not on price. Mm-hmm. So it's 2.5 cents per MCF. And if you take the life of a well, they would get about $200,000 for their well. So they're only 1/5 of what ours is.
Yeah, that's interesting. As a voter, if I come, why do I re-elect Dave Sypolt?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that I've done what I've said I was going to do. When I was elected originally, I was speaking about the problems of our state. One is transparency. We've done many things to open up transparency. In fact, every year we find more and more things in our state which were wrought with corruption or mismanaged, and we've been asking the questions, we've been bringing that forward, we've been trying to make corrections. Another thing was the right-sizing our government. We're trying to downsize and reduce the duplicative type services which are handled by multiple agencies and bring it under one roof. We've tried to bring sense to our legal system and make businesses welcome here, make the tax structure friendly and the court systems friendly and fair, so that businesses feel like they can have a fair shake here. And I think that it's actually working. So it's not just me talking about what we want to do, it's actually saying, look at the last 4 years, look at our economy today, look where we're at, and look where we were. I think that we've seen a big turnaround. I would hate to see that changed if it stopped at this point, and just to go back to the way things used to be.
Great. All right. Dave Sypolt, running for the 14th Senatorial District. Thanks for coming on the program. This is the end of part 1. Please be on the lookout for part 2. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Alex. Mm-hmm.